हेलो एवरीवन। इस वीडियो में हम क्लास 10th फूड विद विदाउट फीट का चैप्टर 5th रीड करेंगे, जिसका नाम भी यही है, फूड विद विदाउट फीट। तो चलिए शुरू करते हैं। The two boys start in surprise at the fresh muddy imprints of of bare feet. What was a barefooted man doing on the step of a house in the middle of London? And where was the man? As they gazed, a remarkable sight met their eyes. A fresh footmark appeared from now here. Further footprints followed one after another, descending the steps and processing down the street. The boys followed, fascinated until the moody inspiration became fainter and fainter, and at last disappeared altogether. The explanation of the mystery was really simple enough. The bewildered boys had been following a scientist who had just discovered how to make the human body transparent. Griffin, the scientist, had carried out experiment after experiment to prove that the human body could become invisible. Finally, he solved certain rare drugs, and his body became as transparent as a sheet of glass. Through it also remained as soiled as glass. Brilliant scientist, though he was, Greenough was rather a lawless person. His landlord disliked him and tried to eject him. In revenge, Greenough set fire to the house. To get away without being seen, he had to remove his clothes. Thus, it was the it was that he became a homeless wanderer without clothes, without money, and quite invisible until he happened to step in some mud and left footprint as he walked. He escaped easily enough from the boys who followed his footprint in London, but but his adventures were by no means over. He had chosen a bad time of the year to wander about London without clothes. It was midwinter. The air was bitterly cold, and he could not do without clothes. Instead of walking about the streets, he decided to slip into a big London store for a warmth. Closing time arrived, and as soon as the door was shut, Greenough was able to give himself the pleasure of clothing and feeding himself without a regret to expense. He broke open boxes and wrappers and fitted himself out with warm clothes. Soon, with shoes, and overcoat and a brimmed hat, he became a fully dressed and a visible person in a kitchen of the restaurant. He found cold meat and coffee, and he followed up the meal with sweets and wine taken from the grocery store. Finally, he settled down to sleep on a pile of whites. If only Greenough had managed to woke up in good time, all night have been well. As it was, he did not wake up until the assistants were already arriving next morning. When he saw a couple of them approaching, he begged, and being to run, they naturally gave chase. In the end, he was able to escape only by quickly talking of his newly found clothes. So once more he found himself invisible but naked in the chilly January air. This time he decided to try the stock of the Throttle Company in the hope of finding not only clothes but also something that would hide the empty space above his shoulder. Shivering with the cold, he hurried to Drury Lane, the center of the theatre world. He soon found a switchable shop. He made his way invisible upstairs and came out a little water wearing bandage round his forehead, dark glasses, false nose, big busy side whisker, and a large hat. To escape without being seen, he casually attached the shopkeeper from behind, after which robbed him of all the money he could find. Eager to get away from crowded London, he took a train to the village of Imping, where he booked two rooms at the local inn. The arrival of a stranger at an inn in winter was in any case an usually event. A stranger of such common appearance set all tongues waving. Mr. Hall, the landlord's wife, made every effort to be friendly, but Greeniff had no desire to talk and told her, "My reason for coming to Imping is a desire for solitude. I do not wish to be distribute in my work. Beside, an accident has affected my face." Stupid, satisfied that her guest was an anesthetic scientist, and in view of the fact that he had paid her in advance, Mr. Hall was prepared to excuse his strange habit and irritable temper. But the stolen money did not last long, and presently Greenleaf had to admit that he had no more ready cash. He pretended, however, that he was expecting a quick to arrive to an moment. Shortly afterward, a curious episode occurred very early in the morning. A Brilligham man and his wife were acquainted by noises in the study. Creeping downstairs, they had the chink of the money being taken from the clergyman's desk without making any noise, and with a poker grasped firmly in his hand, the criminal man flung open the door shunder. Then, to his amazement, he realized that the room appeared to be empty. He and his wife looked under the decks and behind the curtains and even up the chimney. There was not sign of anybody, yet the desk had been opened and the uh, housekeeping money was missing. Extraordinary affair, the glimmering man kept saying for the rest of the day, but it was no extraordinary as the behavior of Mr. Hall's fortune little later that morning. The landlord and his wife were up very early and were surprised to see the scientist door wide open. Usually it was shut and locked, and he was furious if anyone entered his room. The opportunity seemed too good to be missed. They pinned round the door, saw nobody, and decided to investigate. The bedclothes were cold, showing that the scientist must have been up for the for some time, and stranger still, the clothes and dangers that he always wore were lying about the room. All a sudden Mr. Hall heard a sniff close to her ear. A moment later that head of the on the bedpost leapt up and dashed itself into her face. Then the bedroom chair became alive, springing into the air. It charged straight at her legs. foremost as she and her husband turned away in the terrier and the extraordinary chair pushed them both out of the room and then appeared to slam and lock the door after them. Mr. Hall almost fell down the stairs in a she was convinced that the room was haunted by a spirit and that the strange had somehow caused these to enter into her future. My poor mother used to sit in the chair, she moaned to think it should rise up against me now. The feeling among the neighbors was that the trouble was caused by witchcraft or not. When news of the burglary at the Cleveland home became known, the strange scientist was strongly upset of having had her hand in it, suspicion growing even stronger when he suddenly produced some ready cash, though he had admitted not long before that he had no money. The village constable was secretly sent for instead of waiting for the constable. Mr. Hall went to the scientist who had somehow mysteriously appeared from his empty bedroom. I want to know what you have been doing to my chair upstairs, she demanded, and I want to know how it is you came out of an empty room and how you entered a locked room. The scientist was always quick tempered. Now he became furious. You don't understand who or what I am. She shouted, very well, I will show you. Suddenly, the three of bandages, whiskers, spectacles, and even nose. It took him only a minute to do this. The horrified people in the bar found themselves stares at the less man. Mr. Jarif, the constable, now arrived and was quite surprised to find that he had to arrest a man without a head, but Jarif was not easily prevented from doing his duty. If if a magistrate warrant ordered a person arrest, then that the person had to be arrested with or without his head. There followed a remarkable sense as the policemen tried to get hold of a man who was becoming more and more invisible as he threw off the garment garment after another. Finally, a shot flew into the air, and the constable found himself struggling with someone he could not see at all. Some people tried to help him, but found themselves hit by balls that seemed to come from now here. In the end, Jerry was knocked unconscious as he made a last attempt to hold on the unseen scientist. There was nervous, excited cries of hold him, but this was easier said than done. Grenier had shaken himself free, and no one knew where to lay hand on him. धन्यवाद.